Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Curseof and welcome back to another video. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I am here to go over the first place deck list from Speed Duel League Winnabox number 20. If you guys do not know, this is the biggest Speed Duel event that takes place every single month, kinda, more or less, over on the Speed Duel League Discord server. If you guys do want to join the Speed Duel League Discord server and play in the next Winnabox and the next Winnabox and the one after that, plus the weekly ban list locals and Speed Duel Showdown, go check it out. Top link in the description. But this is the Relinquished deck that won the last event, which was a 72 player event, the biggest Speed Duel event of this format thus far. 7 rounds of Swiss plus a top 8 cut, and this Relinquished only dropped one match throughout the entire event. With these results, you got to ask the question, is Relinquished a tiered deck? And that's what we're going to go over today. So, as you guys can see here, this is the deck list that did win the Winnabox. It is a 30 card Relinquished deck, and it was piloted by Arialdar, something like that. I'm very sorry if I'm butchering your name, but yeah, went 6-1 in Swiss, and then obviously won every single match through top cut. Before I start going into the actual deck list itself, I just want to tell you guys the matchups that they did face. Round 1 was versus the Room for Growth Direct Attack Burn, the Soda Cat or Raging Cat, depending on whatever you want to call it. Round 2 was a bye. Round 3 was versus Cyber Angels. Round 4 was also versus Cyber Angels. Round 5 was versus Millennium Crush. You guys probably have no idea what that deck is. I'll bring it up on the screen here for you guys, just so you guys can see it. Round 6 was versus Moth. And round 7 was also versus Moth. Continuing off into this deck's top cut matches. First off, we had the, once again, Soda Cat or Raging Cat Direct Attack Burn deck. Then we had the Millennium Crush deck again. And then in finals, Relinquished went up against Spell Proof Armor. By the way, if you guys do want to watch the top 8 and top 4 matches, Terramaster's video over on the Team JDG channel will be linked in the description. And if you want to watch the finals match, Rook's video will be linked down in the description. So if you guys want to see this deck actually in action, how it performs, go check that out. But yeah, so those were the matchups. And this deck managed to beat every single one of them except for one of the Moth matchups during Swiss, which was actually against Sophicord, who's arguably just the best player of the format. So really not that shocking. Going over the deck and just the card by card, triple Relinquish, triple pre-prep, and triple Black Illusion Ritual to, you know, summon Relinquish. Triple Illusionist Faceless, set up the loop. This is the deck's more or less primary win condition. If your opponent can't break your loop, then they just can't win the game. And a lot of decks this format actually do struggle a bit to deal with this loop. Triple Breaker, Triple Warrior Lady, these are just your staples. One copy of Jinzo and one copy of Jinzo in the side deck here. This is obviously for burn. Sphere Creepo is basically a staple in every single Relinquished deck. Triple Book of Moon is a staple. Double Allure of Darkness because you have a plethora of Allure targets here, barring literally Warrior Lady. And triple Floodgate Trap Hole because setting monsters is good. Going to the sideboard here, we have double Cosmic and triple Mind Crush. This is great for versus Moth. This is good for versus Cyber Angels. Yeah, an extra deck is irrelevant. Oh, this deck was on Shadow Reborn, by the way. The first thing I want to mention here is the fact that this is a 30 card deck. 30 cards is taking a deck that is already decently bricky and inconsistent and kind of just making it worse. You're going to get a lot more hands that are just completely unplayable playing a 30 card version. So if you guys do watch this video, you did see that Relinquish won a Winnabox. Please cut this deck down into a 20 card variant, or at least down from 30. You should not be playing a 30 card deck, especially if your deck is already prone to bricking. You're just making your chances worse. But obviously, Arialdar, or I'm just going to say Mr. Potato because that's what he is on Dueling Book and it's just easier for me. He did not brick very often. obviously did some games. If you guys go and watch some of the matches in the videos that are linked down below, but got pretty lucky and did not brick very often at all. I do want to go over just Relinquished's overall matchups more than anything. Starting off with Moth, which is kind of 50-50, but I'd argue is more in Moth's favor. If you do not have the Illusionist loop established right away, especially in a 30 card deck where it is not super easy to establish, one Parasite can literally just win you the game. You out the Relinquished, you summon a 3500 beat stick, and you just start swinging. If they can never establish the loop, there's really nothing they can do to beat you. I know what you're thinking, right? But this deck was on Shadow Reborn, so you're thinking just bring back the Relinquished, steal the Moth, and win. But Moth is playing cards like Book of Moon, it's playing cards like Floodgate Trapple, it's playing cards like Parasite Paranoid. Your opponent activates Relinquish, targets your Moth to suck it up, you chain Parasite, equip it to Relinquish. Relinquish can't target insect monsters anymore, so it doesn't get sucked up. You swing over it with Moth, and they use their skill. If they haven't established loop, they're probably not going to establish it at this point, and you're sitting in a very, very commanding situation. Along with that, DD Warrior Lady is a very easy answer to the loop. Along with that, you can also just inherently answer the loop by tributing with Parasite and just attacking, because you kind of have some of that leeway. And most decks, including Moth, are side decking Mind Crush, which is absolutely detrimental to the Relinquished deck. You activate Black Illusion Ritual, your opponent flips Mind Crush, you do not get to summon the Relinquish, you do not get to set up the loop, and you're just feeling pretty bad because you just lost 2 cards and got nowhere. And you can't summon back the Relinquish off Shadow Reborn because it was not summoned properly. The 30-card variant isn't the correct variant. I just want to make that very, very clear. I also want to make it clear that Ari Aldar or Mr. Potato is also fairly aware of that, because you'll see in many replays them actually state this deck loses a lot in rated, and you'll also see them state in the DMs between me and them, I built this deck like right before the tournament. I had no intention of really topping with this. So I think a decent bit of luck was involved. Not to say that there was any lack in luck or any lack in skill involved in this, because actually going through the replays, the deck was piloted very well. I just think it was built poorly, but once again, that's not on them. They really did just slap this together, got lucky, and is actually a good duelist. There you go. The next matchup I want to go over here is Burn. And Burn is a absolutely horrendous matchup for Relinquished. Relinquished is the kind of deck that takes advantage of your opponent's actions. It's a very reactive deck. But Burn is also reactive, but can be proactive and still not set anything up for you. Essentially, if you ever summon a monster, Burn has access to a wheel target. If you don't summon a monster, Burn can take advantage of its Zomas to start doing things, and you can't make a play until Burn has made a play. And Burn can set up a lot more cards that affect you than you can set up that affects them, and more than anything, Burn doesn't care about the loop. You can loop as much as you want, doesn't matter, because Burn's not trying to kill your monsters. They're just going to wheel you, or summon a lava golem, or crash Zoma into something, or you're going to swing in and they're going to flip a Walla D and then smack into you with their breaker or their warrior lady. Burn doesn't care. And because Burn doesn't care, and you can't be reactive to them establishing monsters or establishing a board, it really is just an auto loss. The only way this deck deals with Burn is by taking advantage of the Jinzo in the main deck and the Jinzo in the side deck. But when you're playing a 30-card variant, even with the 2 copies of Allure of Darkness, you're not going to be seeing your Jinzos often enough to actually beat Burn in a consistent manner. Maybe in a 20-card variant you can see it a little bit more, but even then you're relying on Jinzo and Jinzo to win against an entire burn strategy, and as soon as you make a play, Book of Moon on the Jinzo, flip Nightmare Wheel, or summon Lava Golem over the Jinzo, or use your Warrior Lady to out the Jinzo. And if they don't want to swing into Warrior Lady in a way that doesn't threaten Jinzo, they gotta establish another monster, which makes Lava Golem live for burn. Essentially, Jinzo really doesn't do enough and is your only answer to the deck. So yeah, burn is essentially unwinnable. But as you guys will notice when I went over the decks that this Relinquished faced, burn was not one of them. It went up against the Raging Cat, Soda Cat, burn-ish deck, but this is still a deck that needs to establish monsters and be proactive. And if you do watch the top 8 match between Justice and Arialdar and Mr. Potato, Jinzo was actually drawn into, I think, very, very consistently, and just completely shut down the deck. Also, I don't believe Justice was on Book of Moon and didn't have a good answer to Jinzo. So yeah, but no, overall, this Relinquished deck struggles immensely versus Burn. And more than anything, Burn is the reason why this deck definitely cannot be considered a meta contender. Going off into the rest of the matchups though here, and I'm honestly going to cover these ones less, Cyber Angels is pretty even, if not in actually Relinquish's favor, because Cyber Angel struggles immensely to out the loop, especially a lot of the variants that are played recently, because they don't actually run Warrior Lady, at least not main decked, and Relinquish very cleanly outs Izana and the ritual monsters, because you activate Relinquish, target Izana. Izana's effect activates to pop Relinquished, but Izana still dies attempting to equip, not having the option to equip to Relinquish, because Relinquish is now dead and then just goes to graveyard, and you can't protect it with the ritual spell. So Relinquish very easily deals with your opponent's board and has a late game plan to, like, a grind game essentially, which is something Cyber Angels doesn't have. Now, if Cyber Angels go second and you didn't establish a loop because you're playing a 30 card variant, then Cyber Angels can definitely just OTK you and win. Going off into the SBA matchup, SBA is very much so favored into Relinquish. SBA is just summon big monster, attack, and if you're a Relinquish player, you love that because you suck big monster, attack back. Unions is another matchup that's favored for Relinquish because you can actually suck your opponent's Union monsters and then re-summon them as the equip card into a monster, because that effect still applies even while they're equipped to Relinquish. Shout out to Nightblader, by the way, for establishing that to me and Terramaster during Banlist Locals last week. Kinda nuts to watch. And against Dragoon, Relinquish is also more or less favored because they have their one Dragoon play, they summon Dragoon, and you just suck it up. And if they don't have the correct resources, like most are going to be playing Cosmic over Dust, for example, and the like, they essentially can't get that Dragoon off of the Relinquished. And if they can't get it off the Relinquished, then they just can't reestablish their Dragoon, their loop, and the such here. I will say the one way that Dragoon does have a okay matchup versus Relinquish is that they can establish a Plasma, and if you do get Plasma on board versus Relinquished, you just negate all their monster effects like Relinquished and such, and they just can't do anything, and you essentially auto win. So if you can get Plasma established, you do essentially win, but it really is build dependent, and most decks are not prepared for Relinquished. I'd also like to mention here too that Relinquished going up against Millennium Crush, the guy that was faced twice, once during Swiss and once during Top Cut, is a horrendous matchup for this deck because Mind Crush literally destroys Relinquished, and this is a deck that just main decks and takes complete advantage of Mind Crush here. So the fact that Relinquished won twice is utterly ridiculous, and if you watch the top 8 matches that Terramaster did, link down in the description, just saying, there were some huge misplays from the Millennium Crush player that led to Relinquished just winning. Overall, Relinquished has a lot of really good matchups against the meta. It has a slightly bad matchup versus Moth and a horrendous matchup versus Burn, But if you can just completely dodge burn like Arialdar did, then you can very much so make a tournament run like he did. But this deck is far from meta. Relinquished has the issue of Warrior Lady. It has the issue of side deck Mind Crush. And if this deck ever did become meta, it's very easy to sideboard for it. We have a lot of sideboard options for Relinquish, like Possessed Dark Soul, like Soul Release, and we're already all siding Mind Crushes for CAs anyway. So Relinquished is far from meta, can't really establish itself as a meta contender, but is a solid rogue deck. And if you guys want more confirmation, the creator of this deck even says it himself. He had a horrible run in Rated prior to Win-A-Box with this deck, slapped it together, never expected the top, and in his own words, this is not a tiered deck, it's just a very good rogue strategy. Rogue decks can steal tournaments sometimes, it just isn't likely, but if you guys did want to play Relinquish and you were looking for, you know, a fun ritual deck that wasn't Cyber Angels that can compete, Relinquish is definitely a good option to go for. Just keep in mind, if you face burn, you're probably going to lose. Also, don't play a 30 card variant. Honestly, the fact that Arialdar got as lucky as consistently as he did to make this top is utterly absurd, considering that it's a 30 card variant. I do once again want to reiterate that every match was played extremely well by Arialdar that got him to this first place finish, but the draws in a 30 card deck were definitely absurd in some games. Relinquish bricks very, very often. It has very easy answers, and auto loses to burn. Is far from a tiered deck, but is a solid rogue contender nonetheless. So to answer the question, is Relinquish the best deck of the GX box format? Sadly, it's not, but also happily, because Relinquish isn't really that fun to play against. So, you know. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, go and hit the like button down below and also subscribe. Don't forget, I have the Win-A-Box finals and the Win-A-Box top 8 and top 4 videos linked down in the description for you guys to check out. Also, check out the Speed Duel League Discord server to join the upcoming Win-A-Box and join all other future events held over there. That's a wrap, guys, and I'll catch you guys all later this week for another video. Peace.